This is J.R. Moore coming to you live from deep in the mountains of the Missouri Ozarks on Wednesday, the 22nd day of February, year of our Lord, 2012. Earth changes headlines, beginning with mega earthquake in the Pacific Northwest. Could be a lot worse than experts have predicted. Then coming back to my neighborhood, 4.0 earthquake hit the New Madrid seismic zone. That was yesterday morning, early morning, about 4:30 or so in the morning. We didn't feel it here where I am, but it was felt in a lot of places. Next headline, New Madrid earthquake drills cover up showing their hand. The author is making a case that these earthquake drills have been getting larger every year for a number of years. Then a story, I read this story about some FEMA employees that have left their homes to be deployed to the New Madrid seismic area and are going to be gone for some time. Don't know what to make of that. Going across the Pacific Ocean, Tokyo prepares as scientists predict a big earthquake. And coming back to Oklahoma, a woman killed in thunderstorms moving through Oklahoma. Going east a little bit, tens of thousands in West Virginia still without power after the snowstorm that hit there over the weekend. New sinkhole shocks Philippine town. Then coming back to Iceland. Series of tremors and quakes rock Iceland volcano Katla. The officials there are saying it's now time to warn the airlines and warn the European governments that this thing's going to pop its cork. And last Earth Changes headline: disaster declarations extended in New South Wales. That's of course in Australia. Without further ado, we do have my friend Lucas patiently waiting in the green room. Lucas is a researcher, a speaker, the producer of the three excellent DVDs that are available for sale at his website. And we'll be talking about those and talking about the things that concern us. And good morning from Colorado. Good morning, Lucas.
Good morning, John. How are you?
Fantastic. So you continue to have a mild winter there in Colorado Springs?
Holy moly, it's going to be over 60 degrees today, and we're in a high wind warning. We could be expecting gusts up to 75 miles an hour.
Whoa, baby, 75 miles an hour.
Yep.
Better make sure the lawn furniture is tied down and put away.
Bring in the tomato plants.
75 miles an hour, my goodness. A Category 1 hurricane, the winds start at 70 miles an hour, I believe.
74, yeah, 74.
74, okay.
Yep.
Well, that's something really special. Well, we're going to be in the high 60s, maybe 70 degrees here as well today. And weather continues to be bizarre and strange and violent and dangerous, doesn't it?
Oh, the whole planet's freaking out. You know what's weird? Approximately 100-mile wide whirlpool just formed off the coast of South Africa.
Really?
Think about that, 100-mile wide whirlpool that they found it from space. That's how they found it.
Well, yeah, if you were close to it, you wouldn't even see it being a whirlpool.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think you can find it on my Facebook page. I posted a link to it.
Now, would that have an effect? What would that do to a ship that was caught in this thing?
Well, I think something that big isn't going to affect anything at the surface much right now. But what's causing it is that's the big question: is what's causing it?
Sure. What is causing it? And well, a whirlpool would be a swirl of water swirling either clockwise or counterclockwise. But when I think of a whirlpool, I think of the center of it as having a sucking action, sucking whatever might be caught in the middle downward. Is that?
Yeah. When you get like a giant whirlpool like that, it probably doesn't even affect what's on the surface because there's water rushing in, on the top before anything gets sucked down. But I'm sure if you were down underneath the surface, it would have probably a tremendous sucking action. Because I mean, you can see the things from space. It looks like the Norway spiral kind of. It's
really,
yeah, it's weird. That's how they found it. NASA found it.
Well, that's certainly something very special and unusual. Which side of the is it on the Atlantic side or the other side? Do you know?
I think it's on the Atlantic, and you know, it's just amazing to think. I mean, what happened? Did a giant sinkhole open up in the ocean floor and it's sucking the water down? You know.
Well, there are people who believe that the center of the Earth is hollow, and so maybe it's connected to that theory. I don't know. Well, what else are you looking at these days?
Well, I posted this on your Facebook page. 100% proof evidence that there was a technologically advanced beings on this planet thousands of years ago. The cut marks in the rock and the saw blade marks. You'll have to watch the video when you get a chance, but it's mind blowing, and it's like anybody can look at this and construe it as proof. You can't deny what you see there.
Always good to have more evidence. I'm always searching and seeking more evidence that can be verified and stands up to scrutiny.
Well, this is a rock that's been sawed part way through, and then the saw blade marks continue down another 6 inches into the rock. Like they stopped in the middle and for some reason, but you can clearly see it was done with a saw.
Yeah, well, it's hard to say why they stopped. It could have been any number of reasons. I guess they had all the rock cut that they needed for that project, and they call it a day and go home. And where is this rock located?
It's down in Peru.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's Inca. And, yeah, it's amazing stuff. I mean, they were totally wiped out. There was some, race or species, I should say. That's one thing they always do. They always say race. And when the race indicates our different, variations of human, you hear it all over TV and all that. They always use race, but that's not true. It's species. But, yeah, there's some species of human that was on Earth thousands of years ago that was probably just as much, advanced as we are.
If not more so.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, I personally believe that they went to the moon and to Mars and possibly sent probes out to the farther planets.
Well, that possibility exists given the evidence of what we've found so far. I ran into a medical doctor down in Louisiana recently. He came across information on a Black Knight satellite independent of anything I've ever said. And his information is that the Black Knight satellite, either the entire satellite or the contents, and I'm not sure even he knows, were brought back to Canada. And that everybody, up to a certain point, everybody who came in contact with this material or worked with it had gotten cancer, including Carl Sagan, apparently. He claims that Carl Sagan had some interaction with the material from the Black Knight satellite. Of course, the Black Knight satellite is a satellite that was placed in orbit, on a polar orbit, about 22,000 miles high, about 12,000 years ago. And it's one of the most highly classified matters that the U.S. government keeps. Very difficult to find out anything about, isn't it, Lucas?
Oh, yeah. I mean, stuff like that's buried deep in the annals of their paperwork. It just would take a miracle to find out any real information on stuff like that that you can absolutely trust. Much of this stuff we get is just what people believe and what, things like that. So it's really hard to trust anything these days. It
is. And I've spent a lot of time separating fact from fiction on the Black Knight satellite and getting to reliable sources. But but the sources I have tapped into have convinced me that it is real and that they did discover it in 1959. You and I had a kind of a funny wake-up call the other day about that waterfall there at Yellowstone, didn't we?
Oh yeah, the way the light, transfers off of the
right.
water.
Mm-hmm. That was funny. It made it look like a lava flow over the edge of the cliff.
Yeah, there's so many things going on right now. I mean, I get bombarded with stuff all day long. Unbelievable things you wouldn't even, it's like fact is stranger than fiction these days, for sure.
Absolutely. We're visiting with Lucus, the proprietor and the developer and producer of 3 excellent DVDs concerning the true nature of our ancestors and us living on this planet. Give us the titles of those DVDs, if you would, please, Lucas.
The first one's Destroyer, Star in the Future of Mankind. Then there is The Return of the Great Dragon. And then, last but not least, 188 Days.
Well, 188 days, that's a cycle that we've seen now. This will be the 4th one, I believe, coming up in right at a month, the 21st of March. What can we anticipate possibly happening on or about the 21st of March?
Actually, it would be the 5th one, which would definitely sum it up for me. But I would think that if the cycle is going to hold true, we're going to see a major earthquake somewhere on the Pacific Plate. Maybe on the west coast of North America. Who knows? Yeah.
There's a lot of anguish over what might happen off the coast from Washington State and Oregon up there. I've heard geologists refer to that area as a geological nightmare between the fault right off the coast and the Cascade Mountains, which aren't mountains at all, but dormant volcanoes. That certainly would be one of the more likely places, along with Japan, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and I would, after this quake right on the center of the New Madrid yesterday, anybody that lives in Memphis or St. Louis or anywhere near that area should really keep your eyes open and don't go by California earthquake guidelines on what to do. Don't go in a doorway, don't go underneath a table, because those structures in that area were not designed for earthquakes, and they're made out of brick, and they're made out of old nails, which are much more brittle than nails we use today. They don't have any shear strength to them, so they're really strong when it comes to a structure standing still, but once you start to shake those nails, they snap real quick. And so people should probably try and have a coat in their vehicle outside their house and have some supplies in their vehicle. That way they can get to something rather than trying to dig back in their house after the fact.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. We have a caller here. Jim in Texas. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning, gentlemen. How y'all doing?
Good.
You were talking about evidence of a race being here before us. I just finished all of Zachariah Stitchen's Chronicles there, the 7 books, and I'm on the Lost Book of Enki right now. There's evidence in the Sinai Peninsula of an atomic explosion.
Right. That's not the only place, but go ahead.
But you can see it on a satellite map if you pull it up. And the ground is covered with busted rock, and they're all full of uranium-235, and that can only come from a nuclear explosion.
Well, not just broken rock, but green glass as well. Go ahead.
Exactly. And in the face on Mars, there is a king buried there. His name is Alalu, and he was exiled to Mars when it had an atmosphere. It was a way station for the Anunnaki when they were mining gold here. And the face on Mars is a mountain that he was buried in a cave under. And when Ninmah and a returning party from Nibiru to Earth, they stopped off at Mars to check on a pilot there. His name was Anzu. And they found Anzu dead, and the Anunnaki have the ability to bring people back to life. And their own kind. Anyway, they brought Anzu back to life, and he showed them where the king was buried, and they acknowledged it, and they carved the mountain into his face. So the face that you see on Mars is the face of Alalu.
Really?
Yes.
That's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
There's also a monolith on Mars, like the one in 2010 Space Odyssey, and also a monolith on the little potato-shaped moon of Mars, too. So
Yes.
somebody put those there.
Yes, and if you want to see this, real Stu Best, years ago, he took a site from NASA off the internet, and it was photographs of Mars, and he enlarged them, and he's found 2 cities on Mars. And if you get his videos, you can see the work that he's done.
Yep, I've got those videos, and you're right. It appears to be clear evidence, doesn't it, Jim?
Mm-hmm. So, all the structures, the giant structures, the pyramids and all that, the Sphinx and all that, they were created by the Anunnaki. There's only been one race here that developed the Earth, and it was the Anunnaki, and we're the result of it. And the human race came from Enki. He was the Lord of the Earth, and he mated with some Earthlings that he created in order to create a better human. They tried splicing with their genes and our genes together. They came up with something that they could work with. But he mated with 2 women here on Earth, and they came up with Cain and Abel.
All right. Jim, thank you for your call, sir. We appreciate it. Okay, well, we got a caller here, Phil in San Antonio. Good morning, Phil.
I had a question for Lucas, and I wondered if he's looked into this, or if he could probably investigate this a little bit. There, apparently on YouTube, there's a video clip. I believe the fellow's name is John Gish or something like this, and he was going to make a trilogy on the Anunnaki. It was going to be an Anunnaki movie, which was going to be a trilogy. And the only video clip they have of, there's one video clip where he was interviewed in Holland or something, where he was talking about the movie. And there's some photos of it, of them shooting the movie, but the movie never came to light. And apparently the story is that the producer suddenly dropped his website, and apparently he's kind of just falling off the radar, and the movie never came to light. And it was, like I said, it was supposed to be a trilogy, and I was wondering if Lucas had any insight to this.
No, I hadn't heard about that.
I haven't either. Yeah.
A lot of people come and go in this whole thing. Some people, there's a lot of people out there talking about a lot of things right now, so you never know the reason why somebody can just...
It's hard to say, Phil. I mean, the funding could have evaporated. It's doing a movie, if it's going to be Hollywood quality, studio quality, can be a very expensive, time-consuming task, and maybe they just simply ran out of money.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right. You're welcome, Phil. And... Anyway, Lucas, you're right. Separating fact from fiction is something that those, by definition, you and I are journalists, and I don't want to humiliate myself by publishing anything, and publishing means talking about it publicly, of course. Publishing anything that's not true and can't be verified, and I know you feel the same way, don't you?
Yeah, and it's really hard now there's been a couple times I've been caught on stuff that was a hoax or something like that, and it's really hard to sift through all the information. But what I wanted to mention about, not change the topic or anything, but about the whole New Madrid thing, that whole area is different than most other earthquake zones. The composition of the soil, the fact,
go ahead.
The fact that most of it sits along the Mississippi River. When this, if this event happens with this big quake, I was reading about. I read firsthand accounts. I read about 10 different ones of people that survived the 1811 quake, and it knocked trees down. and there were sand blows everywhere. You know, at first I thought that the sand blows were just a sporadic thing. Apparently, these sand blows were popping up everywhere. I mean, everywhere you could see, there were sand blows everywhere. And what the problem is that since the Mississippi sits right alongside, those big cities, when the ground shakes, the water will instantly penetrate the soil next to it, and all those buildings will just collapse. Right. That's why it's important to get out of the buildings into a parking lot.
Well, the scientific term is liquefaction.
Right.
A lot of these communities, and of course, this is my home area. My hometown is St. Louis. It was not an earthquake in 1811. It was hundreds of earthquakes in the winter of 1811, 1812. 4 of them large enough to be felt on the East Coast. One of them large enough to make the Mississippi River run backwards. Now, Mississippi River is one of the world's great rivers, and in many places it's a mile wide. It's a massive body of water, and the concept of that massive body of water running backwards for 24 hours is mind-boggling. There's an excellent book, and I don't have the book here in front of me. Maybe I'll pull it out and have it ready for tomorrow. It's a novel written by a St. Louis Post-Dispatch news reporter about a major earthquake on the New Madrid seismic zone. And by the way, us barefoot hillbillies like myself, we call it the New Madrid seismic zone, not the New Madrid seismic zone. So it would literally cut the country in two, is what it's capable of doing. Petroleum product pipelines going from Texas to the northeast, cross the Mississippi River, under the river, right over the New Madrid seismic zone. And 20-inch welded steel pipe is not meant to swing back and forth like a child's slinky that we used to play with. It can't do that. It won't do that. The bridges, there's about 20 or 25 bridges that cross the Mississippi River. The majority of them would receive sufficient damage that they couldn't be used if there was a 8-point plus earthquake in the New Madrid seismic zone. Yes, it would be an event that would change this country and cause massive. In fact, I was talking to somebody recently about that. FEMA publishes 2 projected casualty counts for St. Louis and Memphis, Tennessee. One is the publicly admitted death toll and injuries for an earthquake on a New Madrid seismic zone. The other is the classified version that only the mayors, the chiefs of police, and the fire chiefs get to see. The classified one, I haven't seen personally, but I've talked to men who have. It's very scary. It would be tens of thousands of people dying in St. Louis, Missouri, and metropolitan Memphis, Tennessee. Tens of thousands, 40, 50,000 people in St. Louis, and probably 30 to 40,000 dying in Memphis, Tennessee. Just a massive loss of life, damage of infrastructure. Your comments earlier were well taken. St. Louis, Missouri, most of it was built and before World War II, and they're masonry structures. Now here's the difference. A masonry structure, which are brick structures built before World War II, the bricks actually hold up the building. Brick structures built after World War II, it's a frame structure, and the bricks are simply a veneer put up on the outside after the building is complete. So the bricks don't hold up anything, and they can tumble down and not do any damage on post-World War II structures. Pre-World War II brick structures, they will come down in just a massive pile of bricks and debris and blood and death. And a major earthquake happening at night when people are at home in these older structures is what will cause the majority of those fatalities.
Oh yeah, and especially now, if hopefully if it does happen, it's not now during the winter time. It'll at least hold off until a warmer time period, because there'll be the estimates that I've read on it is that there could be well over 100,000 people killed. And
I was talking about just those 2 cities. Now, every place in between St. Louis and Memphis is at risk of massive loss of life. And the damage radiates east, north, and south from the New Madrid seismic zone. It doesn't go west very well because there's a massive ridge of granite between the New Madrid seismic zone and areas going west, which, thank goodness, I'm west of that granite ridge. So yes, 100,000 fatalities is not unreasonable for a massive earthquake on the New Madrid seismic zone.
Yeah, and then they were talking about upwards of 1 million people being displaced. And in the cold time, that's a.
Well, keep in mind what happened in San Francisco. The big damage was from the fire following the earthquake, because once the fires start and the water lines are broken, there's no way to put out the fires.
Yeah, and then they totally lied about the death toll. We'll never know how many people really died in San Francisco that day.
Well, from what I've read about the San Francisco earthquake, there were numerous warnings about building code violations, especially in Chinatown, where people were building anything they wanted, any way they wanted it, in very unsafe manners. And there were numerous warnings about the possible outcome of a fire getting started in San Francisco prior to the earthquake. So there was no surprise that what happened did happen.
And then, after the earthquake, they were so unbelievably stupid that they actually lowered their building standards way down in order to bring more people in and get construction. So now it's built even worse than it was than before, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Well, I wasn't aware of that, Lucas, but it doesn't surprise me. Chamber of Commerce priorities can sometimes do some strange things, can't they?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. Sometimes we excel, like when we had the big, what was it, 1900 hurricane down in Galveston. After the hurricane, the town actually got together and they raised the entire island of Galveston by 17 feet by dredging in sand. Okay, now think about they raised an entire island by 17 feet 112 years ago, and now we can't even do the simplest things today. Nobody can work together.
Well, they were motivated, and they did have genuine steam shovels. We got several callers. We'll get to as many as we can here, Lucas. First is Dan in Florida. Good morning, Dan.
Hey, John. Hey, Lucas.
Hey.
Anyways, I just wanted to make a comment while you had Lucas on there. He was talking a little while back about things that he couldn't for sure prove whether they were real or not. And one of the things that I've heard you guys speak about every so often is those strange noises that people have heard. And I just wanted to let him know, and you also, my wife and I experienced that here in West Palm Beach. It was a Saturday afternoon, and we live about 5 minutes from the West Palm Airport, so it's not unusual for us to hear, strange noises, planes overhead.
Right.
But that day, we heard something that went on for, after about 5 minutes, we realized, it wasn't normal. Mm-hmm. And the dog was freaking out, which he doesn't do that over just a regular jet airplane or, any other noise like that. So we all went outside, and it was a clear day, not a cloud in the sky, and it just seemed like this noise was getting closer and louder and closer and louder, and a couple other neighbors came out, and we're all just kind of looking up at the sky because that's where it kind of sounded like it was coming from.
Right.
And long story short, went on for about 20 minutes, and then it just stopped.
Really? Amazing.
So,
well, they've been proven to be real. A geophysicist actually recorded the sound.
Dan, did you have any more comments before we move on?
No, not really. Well, something funny. When I was 6, living in South Bend, I actually experienced an earthquake up there. You guys are talking about the New Madrid. I know that's pretty close, but that's about it.
Okay, thank you for your call.
No problem.
And Garrison in Illinois. Good morning, Garrison.
Just a really quick couple of questions for you, John. For one, the fault that you're talking about, the New Madrid and this quake that's coming up, what type of effect would this have on areas such as the Ozarks and Fort Wood and that surrounding area?
Right. The seismic zone does not exist more than about just a few miles west of what might be actually Ironton, Missouri. There's a ridge of granite that as a blocking mechanism that would reduce the felt earthquake by half. So an 8-point earthquake on the east side of that ridge would be a 4-point earthquake on the west side of it. And Fort Leonard Wood and most of the Ozarks is on the west side of that granite ridge.
Oh, great, thank you.
Okay.
And with the timetable as to these rising levels, the sea levels and everything, what type of a time scale are we looking at here?
In your lifetime. That's as much as these Navy veterans were told, and they're satisfied with that, and so am I.
Great. Thank you so much. And real quick, the third title of that book that you were talking about earlier, there was 188 Days, Return of the Dragon. What was the third one?
The Destroyer, Star, and the Future of Mankind.
They're DVDs. DVDs.
Yeah.
Right.
Great. Thank you so much, fellas.
Thank you, Garrison. And here this will be our last call this morning. Pat in Fort Worth. Good morning, Pat.
Oh, hi. Well, I don't go along with all that Anunnaki stuff, but I will tell you that I do believe, because I'm a devout Christian, I do believe that we are going to have a severe earthquake in the Magic Fault. I dreamed of it way back before David J. Smith was told to come over here to Waxahachie because he was in Missouri. And I saw a plateau, and it opened up, and lava flowed toward the east. And I really don't want to get into any more earthquakes except that one particular one that was over 9.0, right? Back in 1811, 1812, back in there.
Right.
But there have been a lot of prophecies about the area, and it probably would extend to Fort Worth and all around here. But the problem is that there was a prophet named Snodgrass. I can't remember his name right now, but I believe it. And God told him, I think it was around 2002, if America wants to divide Jerusalem, he's going to divide America. And he gave him two earthquakes that would happen to prove it, over 7.0 in the Pacific Islands. One happened the next week, and then I looked myself when I read this on the Internet in 2009, and one just happened there. Of course, a lot of them happen over in the Pacific Islands, really big earthquakes.
Right.
And he prays that tsunamis will happen, and they don't happen, I think. But the point
We're
is...
out of time, Pat. We are out of time. Thank you for your call. Lucas, thank you for your time, sir. We appreciate it. And that's it for today. Remember, if you're in occupied territory, the code words, the chair is in the window. The chair is in the window. Be sure and buy lots of ammunition. Never give up your guns. And God bless America.